Hey everyone, we're live. We're doing it the old-fashioned way. We're not doing it with StreamYard. We're going full buckets ahead. We're doing it straight on my phone in my office. And hello, it's good to see you. Hi, Shauna, I can see you there. Glad you're here. I really appreciate the fact that you show up. It makes all the difference in my world. Hi, Shauna. Hi, Jane. I see you here too. There's Amber. Yeah, we're doing it the old-fashioned way, so I'll see your comments as they come through, scrolling across my own face. Margot's in the house. So's Corliss and Deborah. Yay! Happy Tuesday, everyone. Are you excited? We have, guess what's coming up? Anyone? Anyone? The Bonanza. Martha and Corliss and Flynn and Denise. Good to see you. Marguerite's in the house. I forgot how this all works. This tells me that you're there, which is kind of cool. You know, it's kind of cool. Carla is there, still aloha-ing from us. I've got Jackie in the house, and a whole bunch of you just went whizzing on past. Marguerite, I haven't seen you in a while. Denise, hello, Flynn. So good to see you all. Joanne is here. Bonanza is on Thursday. Who's coming? Pinky's up. You will be right here Thursday at 1 p.m. as usual. Okay? There's Darla and Deborah's here. Yay. Jackie, Kathy. I love it. Listen, you're going to want to be here. savingdinner.com/bonanza, because here's one of the things that can happen for you. You can get a notification, and we have the ability to do that. That's what happens there, because the crowdcast is the thing that's going to make, is going to be the big fun in the evening. We got all kinds of stuff going on. We're going to yippee yahoo our way right through this bonanza, and wait till you see the deals we've got for you. So come on down, y'all. Come on down. I'm just really glad. Juanita, so good to see you. There's Helen. She's driving, but she's still in it. How about that? Hi, Jeanette. I just signed some books for you today. Look, this is our quote of the week. This is something pretty, you know what? I was supposed to switch that around, but I didn't. All right, just, can we be over it, right? It is in the moment of decision that your destiny is shaped. That's what Tony Robbins had to say. And I'm going to tell you what, Tony Robbins gave me a little, he gave me just this spark of inspiration for how this whole thing should be going this week. And you know, I will tell you right now that it all has to do with this. This is a quote that you can't see because it's backwards, right? Sorry about that. But it's this, and my friend Jim Quick said this. He wrote a book called Limitless, which is absolutely an incredible book. He understands how the human mind works. If you argue for your limitations, you get to keep them. But if you argue for your possibilities, you get to create them. And boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, I love this quote, and it's really going to help us. It's going to get us in there. So you got to check it out. All right? Got to check this out. And that's what we're going to be talking about all today. And I'm super excited about this, this topic, because you know what? I will tell you, this is the thing that sparks creativity. It sparks a new perspective, and it helps you to figure out a solution to the problem. Are you backwards today, Juanita? Oh my goodness. I know exactly what you're talking about. I know exactly what it's about. So we're going to be talking about that. Now listen, we have, you can find us anywhere on the internet, in any almost any social media channel, especially on TikTok, different content there. At Saving Dinner is how you find us, and same with Instagram. But just follow us there. We've got stuff being pinned like crazy, and our Thanksgiving menus. Hello, savingdinner.com/Thanksgiving for whatever you need. And I will tell you, these are the Thanksgiving menus. All of them are wonderful. All of them are wonderful. They're vetted. They are created by actual recipe writers. That would be me, my daughter, who's an amazing recipe writer. And when you see our Thanksgiving, I'll share all about it when we get it back. I'm just, you know, I love that. So again, we were talking about Transformational Tip Tuesday. We've got Thanksgiving menus. We've got the Bonanza. We've got our Q&A is in 2 weeks. You're going to have to wait for 2 weeks. The Friday after Thanksgiving, we will be dark, by the way. I'm just letting you know. We will not be on the grid, but we will be showing up on Saturday morning. Saturday, well, 1 p.m. Eastern. We will be showing up for that. So, you ready? Do you want to get into the weeds on this stuff? I really hope so, because I hope this lights you up like it did me, because this is what I found when I was going through all of this, that the bleakness that I see sometimes in a situation, or the oh my gosh, what am I going to do? This hopelessness that I might have, it isn't as hopeless as I think if I only remove myself from that situation for a minute and take a look at what the possibilities are. Remember this, and I will tell you, this is a transformational quote right here that's backwards. If you argue for your limitations, you get to keep them. But if you argue for your possibilities, you get to create them. And I'm going to tell you right now that I'm going to take you right through all of this, to help you get focused on how to be the creative that you need to be to find the solutions. Because I'm going to bet you right now, anybody here ever say, I'm not creative? Anyone here ever say, well, I'm just not, I just can't, I'm not that type? Anyone? And I'm going to take you there because I think it's super important for you to get on board with all of this. You see Jenny is posting a lot of different things. We have a lot of resources available for you, including getting off the Carousel of Crazy book and the workbook that goes with it, getting on the Inner Circle wait list for January, which is happening. So just check it all out. And we also have a text message capabilities, which we have not yet really started. If you want to get on there with Jenny and I, we're like the only ones. You send a text message to 855-960-3720 to get on that list. But you and Jenny and I will be the only ones on it so far. Anyway, but this is how, you know what we're going to do? We're going to have amazing pop-up sales and flash stuff and stuff just for our text folks. So be on that list, get on there, even though we're doing nothing with it just yet, but we will. That's a promise. All right, so let's talk about this transformational stuff, right? Because I think if you're anything like me and you've gone and you've suffered through problems that you thought were insurmountable, I just want to tell you today, I'm going to be dropping some hope bombs here. Big truth hope bombs. And I want you to be able to see your way to the solution, because the creativity that you are seeking is already within you. How about that? The creativity that you're seeking. Now, the first part of the quote, and this is part 2 of what we did yesterday. And yesterday, the first part of that was how we fight to hold on to our limitations. And I gave you like 5 different things on ways, little hints that you might be fighting for your limitations, because I think oftentimes we'll say, oh, I don't do that. And then we find out, well, here's a hint, here's a red flag that you might be doing that, and then you go, yeah, that's kind of scary. So I want to get you to that place of seeing what it's all about. And yesterday we've discovered, repeat the number, the 855 number, it is 855-960-3720. And if you didn't get that, it's in the chat. You can scroll up and get the chat. I hope that helps. But thank you for asking, Deborah. I'm glad you're going to join the list. So we took this first part of the quote and we talked about what these limitations are. And those limitations, I will tell you, can be a little bit frightening. And by the way, when you do put that phone number in, you have to, in the message, say join, J-O-I-N. And I don't know if it's case sensitive or not, but you just need to put that in there. And then you get a message back and whatever, if you've had to do that before. Thank you, Karen, by the way, for help. So we fight to hold on to our limitations. And one of the 2 things that we had 2 conclusions on that it's based on fear, And it also could be based on ego, because who likes to be told that they're wrong? Who likes to admit that they're wrong? And then sometimes we also looked at all of that and said, well, maybe we could just circle the wagons even with a little bit of people pleasing, because people pleasing sometimes works its magic into that as well. So the question we need to be asking ourselves is, which side of this are we on? You know, and what side do we want to be on? And I don't know about you, but I don't want to be on the side of being blind to the fact that I'm arguing about my limitations. And I want to be on the side of looking for the possibilities to find the solution to what it is that I'm looking for. Because I'm going to tell you right now, nobody gets to get through this life, you know, problem free. It doesn't work that way. And that is that's part of the whole thing, is that we have this notion, if we just get things straight, that, you know, maybe it's going to be that simple, it's going to be that easy. And if I just lose this weight, or if I just do this, or if I just do that, then my life is going to be an absolute perfect cakewalk. Not true. So the side that we want to be on this quote then is the side with the potential, the side with the possibilities. And what we have to be looking at then, if that's the decision that we've made, is, where am I going to pour my energy? Am I going to pour it into focusing on the problem, or am I going to pour it into focusing on the solution? And that's really is the $1 million question. And I will tell you that the way through it is with creativity. And I want you to hear me when I say this. Guess what? We are all creative. I can't tell you how many times I've heard somebody say, oh, I'm just not creative. And I really want to drill this one home. And you know why? Because I want you to see who you really and truly are. Not what you think, but who you are. Creativity means, this is so important, the use of the imagination, original ideas, and is applicable in all areas of life, from doing the dishes, seriously, to solving problems and figuring out other alternative ways of getting something done. True that, right? Of course. But creativity needs to be recognized first and foremost as the #1 key to unlock possibility. That's what we're looking at, because where do we get stuck? We get stuck thinking we're in a dead end. And I'm going to tell you right now, that is never, ever the truth. The truth is, we oftentimes dismiss this idea of creativity because we think we're just not, and it's not true. Everyone has creativity. It might be lying dormant. You might have dismissed it so long ago that you're never ever pulling out and saying, well, what can I do? But I want you to look at some different ideas of what creativity is and what it can possibly stir up in you. This came from a psychologist, a professor at Cornell. His name's Robert Sternberg, and he says there's 5 components to creativity. And listen, you don't necessarily need to have all of these components in play, but one of these is going to be in play, helping you create the possibilities to whatever it is that you need a solution to. So the first one is expertise and abilities. Now, expertise comes in different ways. It comes in the form of a book. It comes in the form of asking an expert. It comes in the form of advice, or even your own expertise. It also comes in the form of abilities, because how about this? Maybe you haven't quite figured out how you're going to do something, but you knew you had the capability of doing X, Y, and Z. You know, you knew you had the ability to think things out, that you were good at solving puzzles or whatever. Well, using that capability and that ability was going to put you back into the place of expertise. Expertise and abilities go hand in hand. Sometimes they go through an outside source, and sometimes they go through somebody, you know, yourself. Believe it or not, you can be your own expert. Number 2, imaginative thinking skills and knowledge. I love to ask myself questions. I find this to be really super helpful. The what if question, not the what if and doom and gloom, the what if as in, can you imagine? What if I did this instead? Well, what if this were the scenario? And we imagine different things instead of. I love Anne Shirley. You know, I'm a great big Anne of Green Gables fan. And what she used to say is the scope of the imagination. The scope of the imagination. In other words, you know, the imagination is endless. And we all have that ability to tap into, can you imagine? And we don't have to catastrophize as in what if the world blows up, but what if I did this differently? What if I tried this instead? And start seeing that there are actual needle movers in this world. There's actual things that could maybe spark something different, because that's what we're looking for. Number 3 is a venturesome personality. This is a nice way of saying being able to take responsible risk. And oftentimes, we've talked about this before, the amygdala, which is the fear center of the brain, will say, no, 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 don't do that. Because the amygdala hates any kind of change, it hates any kind of risk, and it wants to keep you safe, even if it's in a dreadful situation, because that's what it is that the amygdala knows. Oftentimes, risk and staying the same are opposites of each other. Right? And staying the same, even if it's horrible, even if it's risky, like being in an abusive situation, for example, leaving that means change, and therefore that registers to the amygdala as risky. So think about that this way, that your brain doesn't measure good and bad. Your brain just measures what's happening and what you're telling it. And that's how the amygdala works too, also known as the monkey brain, by the way, because really it's not a good way to be thinking, because it's off the knee-jerk reactions that we think like that, as opposed to the prefrontal cortex, which is a great big old thing here. It's the hippocampus. It's the huge part of our brain that has the ability to break things down and to conceptualize abstract thinking and thinking things through. What a concept, right? Thinking things through. That's how we get our way to solution. Number 4 is intrinsic motivation. You know, the stuff that's inside of you. I'm motivated to find a possibility of change or a solution to a problem that I have. Your motivation is the pain you're in, maybe. You know, I can't tell you how many people have been through the hot melt sprint, and their motivation had nothing to do with what it said between their toes when they stepped on the scale, but it had everything to do with the pain that they felt in their bodies, had everything to do with what the doctor had said to them. So when we understand that, what is the motivation for this change, for the solution that you're looking for, then we can tap into that, because that helps us to redefine what the problem really is and know and see that based on the motivation, we can get ourselves to that place of solution a whole lot quicker. And number 5 is a creative environment. And you know what a creative environment is? It's surrounding yourself with good people, like a community like we have here, by the way. It's a creative environment is being in the place of looking around and saying, you know what, I'm going to create a vision board for that. Flynn does that all the time and shares them with us on the Hot Melt Sprint group. I just love them. Or, you know, doing something with your journal or having a bullet journal. We have a couple of people that do bullet journals. I think Sarah does one. All of these different things are the ways of getting to the place of solution. And you know why this all matters? This is the good part. This is the juicy part. Because possibilities demand creativity. That's why. And that's how we figure things out, and that's how things get figured out. And as long as one is willing, that's a biggie, by the way, willing to be creative, willing to step into creativity and say, you know, I just don't know what I'm doing here, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to try it out. So how do we then, as creative beings, by the way, and that's you and me and everyone else that we know, how do we create these possibilities for ourselves? I'm going to give you, I think, 6 juicy things, and each one of these is heavily loaded. And by the way, I'm going to tell you what, you can get the show notes of everything that I'm talking about today on our newsletter. You can find it at savingdinner.com. There's a little pop-up that comes, and it's just that simple to get it. And the reason I'm telling you this is because this is good stuff. This is the stuff that helps you get to the place and get to the solution that you're seeking. Because you know what? Nobody is sitting here problem-free saying, oh, but my life's just a big bowl of cherries. No, it's not. You've got something you need to figure out, don't you? I do, that's for sure. Right now I need some shoes. Can't find them anywhere. So number one is fear. We talked about fear yesterday. And you heard, if you were a part of Full Bloom, we talked about the fear fence and how it isn't the big fortress that we think it is. It's just a rickety old fence that we can push down at any time. And we also talked about how fear is something that we don't look to get rid of. We just learn how to put it in its proper perspective. I believe that people do you, there's a lot of people out there saying, you have to banish fear. And then you think, well, I can't do that. So, see you later. I don't believe that that's a possibility. I don't believe that we can banish fear just like that. Nobody really lives completely fearless. We just need to put it in its proper perspective. I shared my story yesterday with you when I was a little kid, how I believed there were alligators living under my bed. I knew there weren't, but at the same time, I was fearful of getting up and out of bed because of what was under the bed. You were a kid, you did that. Maybe you had a boogeyman in your closet, I don't know. But we knew as soon as that light went on that we were safe and everything was okay. And that is the nature of fear. That we have this thing that we create in our minds that gets bigger and bigger and bigger the more we think about it. And yet when the light goes on and shines in the darkness, we see how small it is, or that maybe it doesn't even exist at all. So if we can get ourselves to that place of understanding what fear truly is, and that yes, we can dwarf it down, and yes, we can just live with it side by side, but we look at it, it's not the big dragon that we thought, it's the little gecko, on those commercials. It's not as scary as we make it out to be. So I believe it's part of everyone's life. It's just part and parcel. So we can always get to the place of putting fear properly in its place. And it holds us back because it makes us think, that big dragon that lives under our bed or whatever, it makes us think that, we're not good enough. We're not smart enough. We're not going to be, we're never going to be to this place. I'm never gonna this, that, and the other thing. But if we can see it for what it is, we can start pushing back on some of the fear messages that come at us full force. So I have to say too, I think we spend way too much time and way too much energy on this whole idea that we have to banish fear. Can we just make an agreement and maybe pinky up on it that instead we're going to put fear in its proper perspective? I want you to think in your mind's eye, instead of this humongous fortress with barbed wire and all this other stuff, the fear monstrous wall that's been built across your entire life, maybe start seeing it as this rickety old fence that you can just push it right down. A rickety old fence that you can just say, you know what, that's enough of you. Put it in its place, because I will tell you, anyone who is saying to you right now that you can banish fear and live without fear is not telling you the truth. I don't know of a single soul who lives fearlessly. I don't. So, yeah, and I think about this too. Remember the Wizard of Oz? His name was Oscar something. I forgot. Oscar Biggs or something, from Topeka. And it was when Toto went running and saw the man behind the curtain, and he said, don't pay attention to the man behind the curtain. And this is when they figured out that this is just a two-bit con man from Topeka. And that's what our fears are. They're two-bit con men from Topeka, nothing to be feared, just a little old man that's just not worth our time, right? Not worth our time. So we have to look at all of that, because fear has its way of getting in there and making itself so much bigger than it is. And when we are the ones taking control of the conversation and putting fear properly in its perspective, that's when we start to win and fear starts to lose. Remember that. And number two is, what do you want? you've got to determine what your outcome is, the outcome it is that you want before you can even get started. I mean, duh, right? But that's, a lot of people don't do that. We have to think in terms of what rather than how. And a lot of times we get stopped with how. I don't know how that's going to happen. I don't know how I'm going to be able to start a business. I don't know how that's going to whatever happen. And I'm going to tell you something, that if you have ever experienced any kind of success in your life, you look back and you say, yeah, I did this. I'm so proud of the fact that I did that. If you have experienced that, then you can experience success on something else. It's the same tenacity, it's the same perspective that's going to get you to that side. I had a client one time who used our Take Back Your Life journal to start a business. You know, she started a business with it, but she's stuck on some other stuff. And I said to her, you know what? The fact that you started a business using this journal tells me everything I need to know. You can project anything. You can make goals out of anything. You can have what you've already figured out the steps. And that's what I'm saying to you. You can have anything that you want. All you got to do is just put your know-how on the fact that you've already experienced success before. Yeah, it could be a completely different thing, but it doesn't matter. It's the same type of habits, success habits, that we apply, and the persistence and the consistency of doing it, the grit, not the quit, that gets you to that place of actually having the success that you're seeking. It's a huge deal. Focus on what you want, not on how you're going to get there. The hows will all show up. I promise you. They do. They show up. Number 3 is self-awareness. Oh, hello. Here we go. Self-awareness, right? This is something. Now, Jim Quick, I was just telling you about, he's the one who, this is his quote that I just love so much. He wrote a book called Limitless. It's excellent. It's on Amazon if you want to read something that's going to blow your mind. He's a scientist. He's a geek. He's a speed reader. He's an educator. He's brilliant. And what he said I really liked, he said that our brains are supercomputers. It hears everything that we say, everything. So when we're looking in the mirror and going, oh, you're so gross, you're disgusting. And, you know, I used to do that a long time ago, and I'd get a good laugh out of it. You know, I'd take a girlfriend and we'd go shopping, and I'd say, oh my gosh, it looks like, you know, somebody squished 1,000 ping pong balls into my belly and I'm all lumpy and bumpy or whatever, you know, putting on bathing suits. And just belittling and putting myself down ridiculously, endlessly. And guess what? No surprise. Guess what I thought about myself? I thought it was gross. I thought it was ugly. I thought it was awful. All the stuff that I heard in my head from my bullying years when I was younger, I believed it all. But you know what? Here's the thing. When we tell ourselves all of these things, our brain is responding to it and saying, okay, let's gather evidence to support that. Let's gather all the evidence that we can find to make sure that you're saying that. So when you hear yourself, and you know what the cure for that is? It's super easy. It's self-awareness. Yes, I do that. Yes, I get that. But here's what you say. When you say, oh, I'm just not creative, then you put the word behind it, yet. That's it. When you hear yourself go, oh, I'm not creative, then you say, yet. What that yet does is open the doors to possibility. Isn't that genius? That's Jim. I didn't do that. That's Jim. But I'm sharing it with you because I loved it so much. Now, in a perfect world, you know, we're going to flip that on its side and just start saying, I am a creative and I work creatively on brilliant solutions and I work joyfully in my journal every single day, blah, 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 in a perfect world. But for right now, when you find yourself saying something like this, something that's belittling, something that's tearing you down and shredding who you are, go right into this place of saying yet and allow that possibility to open the door to solution. Number 4, what one thing can I do? This is a good one because sometimes we get overwhelmed, you know? Anybody ever, I'll tell you right now, I've got a list like you wouldn't believe of things that I need to get done, you know? And I'm thinking, well, how am I ever going to get anything done? How am I ever going to get this done? I've got this, I've got that, I've got this. I need Caroline to do that. I have to do this. And there is a list But you know what? It always, always, always starts with doing one little thing. That one little thing is going to tip that tip that cart over and get things going. So if you're trying to get back into working out, here's a good one. Maybe you just say, you know what? I'm going to commit to a 4-minute workout every morning when I'm making my coffee. Just one. Just do that one thing. Little thing. And we know our friend, oh boy, I'm gonna mess up his name. He wrote the book Tiny Habits, BJ Fogg. And in the book Tiny Habits, he says, just put on those gym shoes. Just put them on. And I'm just gonna put my shoes on. I'm just gonna do this. Those little tiny things that we do trigger a whole cascade effect that goes on in our brain. I'm gonna say this. When you understand how your brain works, you can understand how to manipulate it and how to get what you want and not let your amygdala run off with it and get you back into the fear fortress. You know, I want you to recognize what that fear truly is and what a tiny little wobbly fence it is. This is not the Wizard of Oz. This is a con man from Topeka. So ask yourself, you know, can I do that little 4-minute workout? Of course you can. And then after you've done it, high five and get all excited about it. The research shows our psychology and physiology lines up when we do something after giving ourselves a dopamine rush and a reward. It's one of the reasons why I say, you know, like for folks who've really got an issue with lots of snacking and stuff after dinner, kitchen's closed. The clapping immediately hits the brain. And when we say aloud, kitchen's closed, we're hearing that. If you want to go a step further and take it all the way, address yourself by name. I'm not kidding. Because addressing yourself by name, your brain hears that more than anything else. And if you don't believe me, go to a party, and if you hear your name across the room, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. We hear our names. So we want our brain to hear, to connect the dots, and to connect those neural pathways and make them stronger, not the other garbage. Number 5 is, and here's where the rough stuff comes in. Here's the hard stuff. Before you can change anything, you need to first acknowledge and accept yourself right now where you are today. Gosh, how many times have I told you the story about going to Lane Bryant with Marla? You know, how it was just a whole new world and how it was in that dressing room where I accepted myself exactly where I was. I was no longer in denial. And when we're in a place of absolute reality and absolute truth, and we stop denying, we stop pretending, and we are accepting, it's like setting the GPS for the first time. This is where I am, and this is where I want to go. And then you can make the GPS work. You cannot do the GPS and make the GPS work unless there is a starting place and a destination. And that's how it is for anything. Acceptance is the place to start. Amen. So that's just plain everything. So you gotta ignore, you gotta get there. And I will also say number 6 would be this, is that acceptance doesn't mean you have to love where you are. You know, you don't have to love where you are. You just have to accept that that's where you are. You don't have to say, well, you know, I don't like it. And it's therefore, no, I'm not even going to acknowledge it. Well, that's not the truth. The truth is the thing. It's your what's happening now thing. It is your moment at Lane Bryant. And this is something that you need just as much as anyone else. You cannot start on this journey until this is accepted and acknowledged. So you want to start a journey? Start it with honesty. Start it with acknowledgement of where you are. And start it with the acceptance and full love of who you are as well. Number 7 is that new possibilities don't necessarily mean nirvana. You want to hear me on this? This is so important because we have this notion that at the end of this journey that we have, that we're going to end up in Shangri-La where there's rose petals and everything done falling down around our feet, and that everything is just beautiful. Amen, Sarah. She said, I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me. That's acceptance, you know? And, you know, most of us are not bearded ladies. Most of us are not, you know, in a circus. But life is a circus, right? It can be a circus. Acceptance is where it is. But it doesn't necessarily mean that once you get there and once you get to acceptance and get through and get to your goal, that at the very end of it, that it's going to be fabulous and wonderful, right? Not necessarily. You know what it's going to be? It's going to be that you are a human being. You have good days and you have bad days. That you have emotions. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're rotten, you know? But I will say that, you know, that's the human experience. And that's what makes the good days that much sweeter, is that we've experienced rotten days. And that's what makes life that much sweeter, is because we've experienced some really crappy times in our lives. We've been through the depression. We've been through questioning everything, right? That's what's true. So I will tell you this, and this is my whole thing, and I can't prove this with science, but I will tell you this, that if you accept that at the end of it, it isn't just going to be nirvana, and that's what life is about, the good, the bad, and the ugly, then I'm going to tell you from personal experience, I believe that's a profound truth. And it does make the good days that much sweeter, and it does make the tough times doable and necessary. So tomorrow we're going to be looking at a loaded topic. This is a big one, and especially for those of you who've come maybe out of a religious experience where the word self-love, loving yourself, it was considered a sin. I did. It's a doozy. It's a loaded topic, but it's an important topic, and we need to look at this in order to get past this place of understanding that, you know, we're enough, and that loving ourselves is really, we've been told that this is something that we need to do. And loving ourselves is the next part of this whole thing of getting past these limitations and getting to the place of possibility. And I don't know about you, but I want to live in possibility. I want to live with this gigantic question mark over my head that says, what if I did this instead? What if I tried this instead? Can you imagine? Because that's what makes life so sweet. That's what I think. I hope you join me tomorrow, Wise Women's Wednesday. Be there. Pinkies up, and thank you so much for showing up. Hopefully, StreamYard will be back, and we'll get our regular format going back together, but I hope you enjoyed this. Take care. Bye-bye.